when Princess Charlotte met Lily Ann, 8-year-old girl, bravely living with burn scars. What she did next moved even the hospital nurses to tears. It all began just weeks before May 2nd, as Charlotte prepared to turn 9. This birthday would be unlike any she'd had before. There were no lavish palace celebrations, no grand marquee on the lawn, no curated photos shared online. This year, the young princess wanted something different, something quieter, something that would change a life, and it did Lily's. It started with a simple question from her mother. Catherine, Princess of Wales, what would you like for your birthday? In previous years, Charlotte would light up, rattling off a list filled with pony-themed gifts, a skipping rope, and, of course, strawberry cupcakes. But this time, she paused. For a moment she said, nothing unusual for a girl known for her bright spirit and quick words. I'll let you know, she said softly, returning her attention to her sketchbook. Catherine noticed the shift in her daughter, but didn't press. In truth, Charlotte had been changing. The quiet grace she showed at the Queen's funeral, when she reminded her little brother to bow as the procession passed, was no longer a rare glimpse. It was becoming who she was stirred. She had started asking different questions, not just about crowns, carriages, and castles, but about charities, about children in hospitals, about those who didn't have the comfort she did. So, just 2 weeks before Charlotte's birthday, Catherine arranged a quiet visit to Royal Manchester Children's Hospital with all 3 of her children, George, Charlotte, and Louis. There was no press release, no photo opportunity. It was meant to be a private visit. But royal footsteps are rarely silent, and soon news of the outing began to trickle out. To most, it might have looked like a routine royal engagement. But for one little girl named Lily Ann, for Princess Charlotte, it would become a moment neither would forget. But for Catherine, the visit meant something far more profound. She had always admired how Princess Diana used to take William and Harry on unannounced visits to hospitals, shelters, and charities, not for photo ops, but to show them the world beyond palace walls. This visit wasn't just a royal duty, it was a tribute, a way for Catherine to honor Diana's legacy and to teach her own children a powerful truth that privilege carries a responsibility to care. As they moved quietly through the pediatric wing of Royal Manchester Children's Hospital, something shifted, especially in Charlotte, wearing a pale green disposable gown over her dress and a soft scarf tied around her hair. She looked less like a princess and more like any other child, doing her best to follow unfamiliar rules. Her shoes barely made a sound on the polished floor as she trailed behind her mother, her brothers walking quietly beside her. The hall smelled of antiseptic and soap. The walls were lined with children's artwork drawings of castles, animals, superheroes, and one cheerful rainbow that had long since faded from sunlight and time. Their first stop was a room where they met Ethan, a boy around Louis's age, maybe a year older, with kind eyes and a freshly shaved head that made his delicate features stand out. Ethan had lost both hands to meningococcal septicemia, a rare and fast-acting bacterial infection. He told George how one ordinary day at school turned into a nightmare. He collapsed at lunchtime. Within hours, he was in intensive care. Doctors had managed to save his life, but not his hands. Now, Ethan was learning how to do everything all over again. That afternoon, he was using specially adapted utensils to eat lunch, a spoon strapped to a soft brace on his forearm. A nurse stood beside him, offering quiet encouragement. Charlotte stood at the foot of the bed, completely still. She didn't look away. Not even when Ethan struggled to scoop up a bite of mashed potatoes. Her usual spark of curiosity gave way to something deeper, something reverent. It was the first time she'd seen a child her age so visibly altered, so brave and yet so calm. In another room, they met a teenage girl in a wheelchair undergoing treatment for bone cancer. She laughed with George as they talked about video games and proudly showed Charlotte a notebook filled with poems she'd written for the nurses who cared for her. The family listened, smiled, nodded. But Charlotte, there was something different in her eyes. A quiet softness, a stillness that hadn't been there before. The visit was meant to be brief. A few rooms, few warm greetings, but each encounter left its own mark. And then came room 12. The room that changed everything. As they stepped through the doorway, the air felt different, heavier, more still. Inside sat a young girl propped up carefully in bed. Her posture was stiff, her left side wrapped in thick layers of white gauze. The burns across her neck, shoulder, and arms were still fresh, reminders of a fire that had nearly taken her life. Her skin bore a patchwork of healing pain. In quiet strength, her name was Lily. She was 8, just like Charlotte. On her lap rested a sketch pad. Despite the bandages that wrapped her hands, Lily was drawing. Simple pencil sketch of a dog curled beneath a window. The lines were careful, intentional. It wasn't just a way to pass time, it was her therapy, her way to survive. Charlotte froze at the door, just watching, taking in the girl, the bandages, the sketch. The silence between them said more than words ever could. Near the bed, Lily's parents sat quietly. Her mother gently adjusted the edge of a blanket, eyes full of worry and love. And in that stillness, something unspoken passed between the two girls. What happened next would leave even the nurses in tears. Her father sat nearby, clutching a water bottle, his eyes tired yet full of love as he watched his daughter. When the royal visitors entered, both he and his wife stood quickly, visibly anxious. But the nurse offered a warm smile and gestured for them to remain seated. Before anyone could speak, Charlotte stepped forward. Her voice was soft, yet filled with concern. "What happened?" she asked, eyes fixed on the bandages. Lily looked up from her sketchbook. She wasn't shy, but she hesitated, glancing at her mother for reassurance. With a gentle nod, her mother gave permission. "There was a fire at our house," Lily said quietly. "I was in my room when it started. I tried to leave, but the door was hot. I couldn't open it." Charlotte's eyes widened. "My dad and the firefighters broke the window," Lily said, casting a look at her father. "They climbed in from the garden and pulled me out. She was unconscious when they found her," her father added, his voice choked with emotion. "If we'd been 1 minute later," he trailed off, the words too heavy to finish. Lily turned her gaze back to her drawing. "Fam. Lucky," she murmured, "but it still hurts." Charlotte took a step closer and looked at the sketch. "Is that your dog?" Lily shook her head. "No. I just like drawing them. I've a dog too," Charlotte replied. "Her name is Orla. I try to draw her, but I can never get the ears right." Lily smiled, a crooked but genuine grin that eased the weight in the room. "You draw?" she asked. "All the time," Charlotte said, "especially when I'm nervous. It helps me think." The two girls continued talking about dogs, drawing, and the eternal struggle of noses that never looked quite right. Lily's mother dabbed her eyes quietly with a tissue. From a few steps back, Catherine watched the moment unfold, visibly moved but silent. Eventually, it was time to leave. The nurse gave a respectful nod and Charlotte stepped back. Then she paused. "You're really good," she said, motioning to Lily's drawing. "Maybe next time I'll bring mine." Lily's eyes lit up. "You'd come back?" Charlotte hesitated, then offered a soft smile. "I hope so." As she turned to go, Catherine gently rested a hand on her shoulder, and they stepped into the hallway. But just before reaching the corridor's end, Charlotte suddenly stopped. "My scarf," she said. "I left it on the chair." Catherine nodded, letting her return alone, accompanied only by a quiet staff member. The door to room 12 was still slightly ajar. Charlotte stepped in quietly, careful not to disturb anyone. As she reached for her scarf draped over the visitor's chair, she froze. Voices drifted through the room. Lily's parents were speaking in hushed, worried tones. "The doctor said she need another surgery," her mother whispered. "The burns are tightening around her shoulder. It's affecting bone growth. If we wait, her arm may not develop properly." Her father exhaled heavily. "We're already behind on payments. The last procedure took everything. The graft didn't even fully take. They'll need to go in again," her mother continued, her voice barely audible. "I asked about aid, but there's a long wait list. And just the therapy costs hundreds every week." Charlotte stood frozen, scarf in hand. This wasn't just about physical pain. It was about time. When you found a girl her age who might not heal simply because her family couldn't afford it. On the ride back to Windsor, the car was unusually quiet. Charlotte sat by the window, tracing misty shapes in the glass, as the golden sun sank lower in the sky. She hadn't said much since leaving the hospital. George and Louis murmured to each other in the back, but Charlotte didn't join in. She kept whispering the same words to herself. Room 12. Lily. Later that evening, as the house settled into its evening calm, the kitchen staff wrapped up and the boys ran upstairs. Charlotte wandered into the drawing room, where Catherine was, sorting mail beside the fireplace. Did you forget something? Her mother asked with a warm smile. Charlotte didn't answer right away. She crossed the room and stood before the flickering fire, staring into the gentle glow as it pushed back the lingering summer chill. I know what I want for my birthday, Charlotte said at last. Catherine looked up from the mail slightly. Surprised you do? Charlotte nodded firmly. I want to help Lily. I want to pay for her surgery. A hush fell over the room. Catherine slowly set the envelopes aside, giving her daughter her full attention. That's a beautiful thought. Sweetheart, she said gently. But what's made you think of this all of a sudden? Charlotte turned to face her, eyes unwavering. When I went back for my scarf, she began. I heard her parents talking. They were scared. They didn't know how they'd afford her treatment. Her mom was crying. She paused, fingers twisting nervously in front of her. Lily's only 8, Mommy. She can't even open her hand properly. But she was still smiling, still drawing like it didn't hurt. Catherine stepped forward and knelt in front of her, meeting her gaze. She needs more surgery, Charlotte whispered. Skin's hurting her bones. Her dad said, if they wait too long, she might not be able to move her arm right when she grows up. There's no panic in her voice, just quiet conviction. Catherine reached out and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her daughter's ear. Speak to the hospital, she said softly. We'll find out what she needs. We'll see what's possible. Charlotte nodded once, then added, but can it be from me? Not from you or Papa. Just me. Catherine smiled. It can. By the following day, arrangements were underway. The hospital administrator handled everything discreetly, deeply moved by the gesture and committed to protecting both families' privacy. A donation of 39,000 euros was transferred directly to the hospital's surgical fund, enough to cover Lily's upcoming skin graft, reconstructive procedures, and several months of physical therapy. The surgery was scheduled for the coming weeks. When Lily's parents received the news, her mother broke down in tears. Her father simply sat, stunned, holding the letter in one hand and the envelope in the other. Inside was a small card with a hand-drawn dog on the front and a simple message. Keep on fighting, Lily. With love, Princess Charlotte. The card bore the royal seal, but Charlotte never told anyone else what she had done. There was no birthday cake that could match the feeling she had as she sealed that envelope. No candle she could blow out that would carry a greater wish. She didn't need one, and for once, she didn't want anything else. But the story didn't end there. 12 days after Charlotte's birthday, on a quiet Thursday morning, Lily's surgery took place. It was a delicate skin graft designed not only to heal, but to restore movement to her left arm where scar tissue had begun to wrap tightly around her growing bones. The hospital wing was calm, but alert. That morning, nurses moved with quiet purpose, and parents whispered hope between themselves. Charlotte had asked to visit Lily the evening before the operation. Catherine had gently agreed. After school, they made the short trip back to the hospital, quiet and thoughtful, carrying something far more lasting than a gift. This time, Charlotte wasn't wearing a formal gown or her signature scarf. She arrived in jeans and a soft hoodie, her initials stitched into the sleeve. From her pocket peeked a small drawing where a Les Paw print hand-drawn by Lily as a thank you for the sketch card Charlotte had given her. The moment they stepped into the hospital room, Lily's entire face lit up. Despite the pain and the bandages, her smile was wide and real. You came back, she whispered. I promised, didn't I? Charlotte replied with a grin. Settling into the chair beside her bed, she pulled out a fresh sketchbook, its pages crisp and blank. We'll draw something together once you're better. They didn't talk much about the surgery, wasn't Charlotte's way. Instead, they laughed over silly dog names, debated whether paws or tails were harder to draw, and quietly colored in the corner of a shared page. When it was time to leave, Charlotte gently squeezed Lily's unbandaged hand. "You're braver than anyone I've ever met," she said. The surgery took 5 hours. Catherine kept Charlotte updated. But it was the hospital administrator who eventually made the call himself. The procedure had been a success. The skin graft had taken well. Lily would begin therapy within 2 weeks. Charlotte smiled wide. "Good," she said. "Now she can finish our drawing." Over the next month, Lily's recovery was steady and full of small victories. The swelling faded. Mobility returned little by little. She could sit up on her own again and soon she was holding a pencil. Then she started sketching. One afternoon, her parents gently helped her stretch her healing arm. Lily looked up with quiet determination and made a request that took them by surprise. "I want to tell people what happened," she said, "not just about the fire, about everything, especially about her." Her parents hesitated. They'd wanted to keep things private out of respect for the royal family, to protect Lily. But Lily was firm. "If she hadn't helped me, I wouldn't be getting better like this. People should know." And so, with the hospital's support and her parents' permission, Lily sat down in front of a small camera one sunny afternoon. Her hair was tied gently back, the bandages thinner now. She held her sketchpad in her lap, open to a page that showed a dog with uneven ears and a hilariously crooked nose. "My name is Lily," she said to the camera, her voice calm. "And someone really kind helped me when I needed it most. Her name is Princess Charlotte. Didn't want people to know, but I do." She talked about the visit, the sketch, the card. "She gave me a chance to get better," Lily said. "And she didn't ask for anything. Just that I keep drawing." The video was uploaded by the hospital's media team with her family's full blessing. It was short, just under 3 minutes, but within hours, it spread like wildfire. People around the world were touched by the quiet grace and compassion of 2 young girls, one recovering, the other learning the power of kindness. Comments poured in. "This brought me to tears. A beautiful act of kindness from someone so young. Anna would be proud. Charlotte is truly following in her grandmother's footsteps." Of course, not everyone was kind. One comment read bluntly, "Charlotte was just being opportuned. It's all about approval ratings just like the rest of them." But that voice was quickly drowned out by thousands of others expressing admiration, gratitude, and hope. Charlotte never made a statement. Catherine politely declined interview requests. But sources close to the family revealed only this: the young princess had been sent a link to the video, and she watched it smiling the entire time. She even promised to stay in touch with Lily because sometimes the best way to celebrate a birthday isn't with cake or candles, it's with compassion and a quiet act that leaves a mark far beyond the moment. So, what are your thoughts on Princess Charlotte's incredible gesture? How do you think this act of kindness will shape Lily's life as she grows? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories like this one. Click the next video on your screen, we promise you'll love it.